trying a brand new thing here. We normally have our podcast on Spotify and we'll continue to have episodes on Spotify, but we wanted to try to add video to this so that people would be able to kind of see who I'm talking with and a lot more about them personally. And you get to be number one.
That doesn't happen to me very often.
You're number one. So, Mike Brown is our new board president, and I want to ask you about a lot of things about what your background is. But to start with, you've been on our board before this for a couple of years now. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And it grabbed Mike up because he has a military background, has a passion for what we do, and we have the position of board president available. And so we did a little vote and we took his arm and stuck it behind his back. Why? I'm curious why you want this responsibility.
Well, I truly believe in what we do. I've talked about this, I don't even know how many times now at different service organizations and in different venues, even beyond service organizations, Ladies Republican Party, and all over. Any opportunity I get, I talk about the program.
Yeah.
I love dogs. I have 4 at home myself, and would have 20 if my wife would let me. But she won't because she's the one that has to care for them whenever I'm gone, and I understand that.
Hmm.
Um, but then I've been in the military for 32 years, and it's still weird to say that, been, because I mean, that's what I've done most of my life. Uh, so I have this huge heart for veterans. Uh, and the young men, well, not young, most of them are older than me that we have served, not all of them, but a fair number of them, well over 50%. And it's usually because of some sort of a physical issue, but there are some behavioral health issues as well.
Hmm.
Uh, and to watch how they pair up with these dogs, I mean, it just tugs at your heart. It's great.
I know that as well. And that's the message we are always trying to get across to people because really, unless you're in this program and get that up close look and that I get to see and that you get to see, it you can't even really understand how deeply it impacts lives. So many lives, and not just veterans, we're talking about,
Mhm.
the offender trainers,
Right.
the families of the veterans,
Right.
are also impacted. So it is that up close view that really makes us jump right in and say, yes, I want to be a cheerleader for this program.
Well, and you mentioned the inmates, right?
Mhm.
What a great opportunity. I mean, we've had uh, several opportunities to interact with inmates, and when you talk to them, especially whenever I was talking to them there at JCCC, Jefferson City Correctional Center, uh, 2 of them came up to me, and I wasn't in uniform, but they asked me if I was in the military, and whenever I told them yes, I could not stop talking to them. I mean, they were so excited to talk to me about the program and about what they're doing to help other veterans. And they were, they know they've done something wrong. They're there for a reason. But whenever they get the opportunity to try and give back where they felt like they have wrong, that just fills their heart with joy. Now, that's not all of them. Obviously, there's some bad apples everywhere you go. But the vast majority of the people that I talk to, they really appreciated that. I didn't get a chance to go into Fordland, but I did get a chance to meet Mikey.
Mm.
And for him to do what he was doing and being so successful, I mean, that is exactly what we want our program to do, is to help rehab these guys and gals and then get them into the public sector and have a viable alternative for them to be able to do for the rest of their lives if they choose to. And if nothing else, it is a bridging and a bridging capacity for them to be able to do something until they get to the job that they ultimately want to do.
Yes, and not all of the inmates that are training are going to be there for decades. Some
Right.
are getting out, and you make a great point that they exit the prison system with a skill that they can immediately go and do their own thing if they want to open their own thing like Mikey did, or they can certainly go to a business that offers boarding and training and say, hey, look what I did for years while I was incarcerated. It's great training for them. Now, there are some that are going to be in the system for a very long time, and even
Right.
they, in the conversations that I've had, and if you guys haven't listened to past episodes. We did have rare access in the prison and talked with some of the inmates. Wow, they cannot be more grateful for the chance to give something back, as you mentioned.
Mm.
They have it in their heart to do this, and you got to think about this. They don't get a lot of feedback. They
Yeah.
train this dog and that dog goes out to the veteran and then that's about it for them. So, that reciprocal thing, they just don't really get a lot unless we, take a visit or something and spend some time with them. So I always bring up, the offender trainers. I see what the impact for them is as well. One of them, Dan Holman's trainer, we met him, we took Dan there. That's one of our episodes. And just boy, it was tearful and
Yep.
emotional. I know you've seen that as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for doing what you're doing.
Well,
I know you probably won't even put this into the episode, and I appreciate that about you. But this is fantastic that you're doing these, the podcasts and the video, and trying to reach out with every medium that we possibly can. This is
mhm.
fantastic. Thank you so very much.
Well, it's my pleasure, Mike. Thank you. Let's talk back a little bit on your history, because you mentioned you'd been in the military for 30 years. And boy, does that make you qualified, in my opinion. You know what this need is all about. Talk
Mm.
about your military history.
Well, my military history is very different than an awful lot of other veterans.
How's that?
I'd gotten into active duty at Fort Hood, Texas, and had spent 3 years there. And at the end of that, I was rather disillusioned. I had only made it to E4, and I was a helicopter mechanic, but I had not gotten the training that I needed to be able to become an AMP mechanic, airframe power plant mechanic, which is a career in and of itself. So I just decided to go back home. So I went back home and joined the National Guard back home and continued to serve in that capacity as a powertrain mechanic, but then go to school.
Hmm.
And then I became a school teacher and I got out of the Guard completely, got out of the military completely. Actually tried to grow my hair out. That was a whole nother story.
Oh.
But did that for it was about 5 years. And my brother Matt, which I'd like to come back to in a little while,
Yeah.
but my brother Matt kept calling me after drill weekends, and he was going through officer candidate school. And he said, Mike, you got to get back in. You got to do this. And I thought I was supposed to come back in and become a chaplain, which
Hmm.
I really wasn't sure that that was the path I was supposed to take, but that's what I felt like I was being led to do. But then I came in and I figured out um, that in order to do that, you had to have a degree in divinity, and my degree was in physics, and those two things are about as far apart as they could possibly be. So I realized the engineers was the path that I really needed to be in. So I got into that, and then, gosh, probably 3 years later, I was deployed to Iraq with the 203rd Engineer Battalion, and came back from that, and just like I got to believe almost all veterans that are deployed to a high op tempo combat theater, they come back different,
Hmm.
and uh, you can't be in that environment for that length of time with your your body on accelerated mode and come back and be the exact same you were when you left. So, so that was one thing that led me to this program. Not so early on, but uh, I knew I wanted to do something to help out others. And then uh, when I came back, I didn't get my job back as a school teacher. That's another completely different story. But I decided to get out of teaching because the kids did not deserve a grumpy old man that was disillusioned and disgruntled with the administration. So I got out of that and became a S1 in the military. It's an admin officer. That was an extra duty. Um, and did that for a short time period and got into the AGR realm, active guard reserve, full time, and then deployed to Afghanistan and did route clearance there. Uh, I say I did. We, the battalion, did route clearance. I
Yeah.
was a I was a desk jockey. I was the XO for the battalion, and the real warriors were out there doing the route clearance. People like John Lopez, he did route clearance.
Mm-hmm.
I just made sure that the right people and the right things were at the right place at the right time so that they could do their job. That's what I did.
So were you kind of the radar of will that help people understand, radar from math?
Uh, I would be more like the doctors than radar,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
because I made sure that the staff did what they were supposed to. I was the second guy in charge of the battalion. The battalion commander was the guy that led the entire battalion. Great man. Would follow him anywhere. Tony Adrian is his name. He's a retired one-star general now.
Hmm.
Uh, and then Vance Holland. I don't know if you've met him or Angie's husband.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
he was the one of the S3s in the brigade, or
Okay.
excuse me, the battalion, and we've actually kind of moved together. The Afghanistan deployment was difficult for a myriad of different reasons. We lost several people and had many injuries. Um, my brother being one of them. He was blown up in a convoy, and and that is in part, I believe, part of the reason why my brother committed suicide. So,
Yeah, I'm glad you circled back to Matt. We talked with his widow,
mhm,
Kelly, in probably one of I feel, our most compelling episodes. I just kind of let her talk because she's so well spoken, and that was your doing. You helped me um, facilitate that interview, and I think it's through her trust in you that she trusted me. So thank you. If people haven't heard that, I would encourage them to, because I knew Matt. Matt, I knew from my job as a journalist. He was also a police officer with Springfield, and
mhm.
he, for a while, a good while, was the public information officer. So, I had many conversations with Matt over time, and Matt is the perfect example of a person that you think has everything going for them,
Yep.
and nice looking guy, super fit guy, beautiful family, all is well, right? Until it's really not. And that's, I think, kind of what was going on from what my take was through Kelly, and of course now through you. Is there anything more you want to share about his struggle and his journey?
So we had Matt and I both. Matt is my only biological brother.
Mm.
Um, I have other brothers and sisters that are half and step and otherwise, but um, Matt and I had been through a lot through our childhood, and the military was actually a way for us to excel
Mm.
because the negative things that happened to us in our childhood were not following us in the military. So it was our merit in what we did, what we said. how we acted,
Mhm.
that allowed us to excel. So it was a fantastic venue, and I'm certain that he did in the PD as well. I, if you were at the funeral, you would have seen the hundreds of people that were there. There's a video that I can give you a link to for
Mm,
the funeral itself. It was amazing.
I'm sure.
Just the tribute to him and his life and the people he touched. Uh, the ironic and I guess ironic is the only word I could use, but the ironic thing about Matt's death is that it saved others' lives.
Mm,
And I can give you for instance, there is a soldier um, that attempted to take his own life the night before Matt took his. And whenever he found out about it the next day, he didn't take his own life, obviously, but when he found out about it the next day, uh, Matt and him had a very close relationship, and he saw how it just devastated everyone.
mhm.
And he decided that from that point forward, he would never do that.
Wow.
So I wear a I wear a bracelet that I made shortly after Matt passed.
Mm.
That it's probably not even something that can be seen
Yeah,
here,
it can be
but
seen.
okay.
Yeah.
But I made 3 of these, and one of them is with that soldier now.
Ah, that's
So
so compelling. It really is. Now, one of the things that's so important to our organization is we're trying to save lives. And some of these veterans are to that point. They are
they are.
to the point where if they don't get intervention, they are not going to find life worth living. And that's where Matt was. And
Mhm.
that's why we're doing this. We want to provide service dogs to these veterans so that life can be remarkably better. Tell me about that part, because one of the things you did as our board member was you would actually go to the homes of some of our applicants
Mhm.
and talk to them about what it is that they need help with, and how we can maybe do that for them. And plus you kind of looked at their home and made sure that it was going to be safe for our dogs. It was going to be a good environment, and that they didn't have like a situation with 10 other dogs that were going to be disruptive with the training or something like that. Explain more about your experience when you went to their homes.
So it was a whole range of different homes and different situations, but really it boils down to I would explain to them that, well, let me back up a step.
Mhm,
Where they were at in the process was everything had been accepted. They had done all the paperwork they needed to do. And at this point in the process, I go to their house and look at their house and, as you stated, deem that the house is suitable for the dog, and the environment is suitable for the dog. But
mhm,
it's really more than that, right? I'm looking at, as I do this, we call it home visits. As I do this home visit, I'm looking at the application that they had submitted and make sure that uh, what they submitted are the same things that I'm seeing as I get there. So, for instance, they'll say, "Hey, I need a dog for PTSD," but I see that they're really having a hard time just standing up,
mhm,
or getting around. And then as I'm sitting there talking to them, I just begin to ask them questions on, uh, so how are you getting around? What does the doctor say? And what's going on with your life? And what other things in your life are you still trying to do where you need to do these things, whether it's getting up and getting around, or whether it's diabetes, or whatever the case may be.
mhm,
So I'm digging into them, their personality, their lifestyle. So I have an idea of ultimately what excuse me, our trainers need to do to set the dog up for success, and then ultimately the veteran. So, so it's that, and it's also informing them, because you can imagine the very first question you're always going to get is, when can I get my dog?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's ultimately what they've submitted for. That's what they're looking for. That's what they want. And they believe, and I have seen this to be the case, that it will change their lives. So so they're anxious, right? When am I going to get my dog? When is that going to happen? And so I explained to them the process, what they've already done, where I'm at in the process, and then uh, what the next three steps are in the process before you get your dog. So it helps. I don't know that it helps alleviate their anxiety, but at least informs them enough where they feel like they have a working knowledge of what the next steps are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something we can improve as an organization, in making sure that the veterans understand that better before the home visit ever happens as well. There's so many things that we can do better as an organization, and we'll continue to refine and get better as time goes on.
And you have so much energy for that. It's really infectious. Let's talk about some of our goals and things we want to achieve under your leadership. You and I walked in the parade together, the Springfield parade, and you were sharing some things with me at that time. I'd like to, if whatever you feel comfortable revealing, I know that you have big plans. So you just let us know what you're thinking, because I might as well get my mind around it too, because I'm on the board and I'm going to have to make it happen with you. So I'm on board with you on that. I'm your soldier. Uh,
Great.
talk about your plans.
Okay. Well, so in the military, as I went through Command and General Staff College, one of the things that I went through was a planner's school. And it's literally large scale plans for big operations,
Mhm.
theater level operations. So when you go through that school, you don't think about the tactical. You think about the operational, or even bigger, uh, to think larger scale than that, right? Uh, so uh, so what I have done is, I'm not thinking about the bills that we're paying. It's important, and we have an executive director that works on that,
Mhm.
uh, and those things will be taken care of. So I have plans for a three phase operation, if you will.
Okay,
First
great.
phase, right? First phase is just to get us to continue to maintain where we're at, because right now we get paid Friday, we pay bills on Friday, and we're waiting for the next Friday. That's
Mhm.
kind of where we're at, because of the amount of money that's coming in regularly, and donations, right? So that's sustainable as long as you have people that are willing to go out and ask for money, and continue to generate that revenue regularly. So we have a young lady named Angie Holland that is excited about making sure that we stay relevant and stay liquid for the next 8 to 9 months. So, and I think we're gaining ground on that, but that's the first phase, right? Because we want to continue to push dogs toward veterans. We have veterans that are waiting on dogs and have been for a long time, but our operation has slowed down significantly. Uh, and we can talk about that a little bit later. Phase two is a large scale event, and that should happen sometime toward the end of this year. Uh, I would love to say I know exactly what that looks like, but I will frame it in this way. It will be some sort of concert. Uh, the who and the when and the where, I don't have that nailed down, but uh, I'm thinking big. I am not willing to just say that it will be a local band, although I think that would be fantastic as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
I want something in a large venue with large names, that will bring in a lot of cash uh,
Mm,
for something people want to see, not just because they believe in our cause, because I think that will happen as well, but because they're like, man, I want to go see that person. So they'd be willing to do that. And I'm going to be asking our benevolent folks that will be doing the concerts to help us out with that so that a large sum of money will come back to our organization in the end. So that's phase two.
that's big.
It is big. It is. Phase three is setting the organization up for the future, for the next 10, 15, 30 years down the road. The first part of that phase is purchasing a business or two that will ultimately turn, uh, and I don't know if profit is the right word to use here. I'm not a lawyer, but turn some sort of money over to K9s for Camo. That is the non for profit,
Mhm,
but being able to pay for the business and pay for the employees within that business
mhm,
to be able to put money back into K9s for Camos. So we're not doing phase one anymore. Uh, we still will gain money from people seeing our program and saying, wow, that's amazing. We should donate to that. But that won't be our primary focus. Instead, it will be to make sure that we expand our program and make it bigger, right?
yeah.
So the second piece to that phase is to start a foundation. And the money that's not used within the business or businesses, I don't know what that looks like just yet. I think the board will help us with that. Is ultimately to make sure that uh, 50 years from now there is still K9s for Camo,
Mhm,
and maybe instead of it being just Southwest Missouri, maybe it's the surrounding 30 states, something bigger and bolder that ultimately I think we can get to. That's going to be beyond my time here, but I think if we set this up, it can morph into something like that.
hmm. Those are great plans. It's very big picture, which, like you said, that's what we need. Fundraising is so hard. Anyone listening to this who's associated with a charity will understand that, you're just always begging for money and trying to find a few dollars. When I first got on the board, I started making bracelets, and I started, going to little craft shows and trying to sell my wares and make money. Those few little dollars add up. Sure, they do. But to really be successful, it takes bigger money. Training. We've talked about it being $8,500 to train a dog. Uh, I can't make and sell enough bracelets to to do that. So thinking big, like you are, really is the only way to make things like this work beyond a few months.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the reason why this and I would love to tell you that this is something that I came up with, but I believe this is divine intervention. I believe that this is something that I was meant to do, and God has put me on this path. Uh, the fact that I love all three of the aspects of our organization and the opportunity that I think I have at this moment in my life to be able to reach out to very popular individuals and I think strike a nerve in our organization and and plead for them to come to us and to do this for us. Uh, I just believe that this is the moment where we can make an enormous change for good for the organization.
Mhm. Couldn't agree more. And if we could get one under our belt, it could become an annual thing, and the community would love to go, and it becomes known as something fun to go to. So we'll have to get a big response. Maybe this video will do it. Maybe somebody will listen and say,
That'd be great.
"Oh, maybe Carrie Underwood. Maybe she'll have a
Yeah,
spare Friday night that she's not doing anything, and." she'll come play a concert for us.
That would be fantastic.
We would take her. Yes,
Yes.
we would. Carrie, if you're listening, we will absolutely take you. Anything else in your heart that you're thinking of that you want to jump into?
That, the first thing I really want to say is that the next 2 years are going to be fast and furious, difficult, challenging for the board, challenging for the members of the board and the volunteers. We have a large number of volunteers that are helping out as well.
Mhm.
Uh, and I want to say thank you to them because none of them get uh, none of them get any compensation for what they do, including you. And the fact that we're doing all of this uh, pro bono for really for the veterans, the dogs, and the inmates. I think it's fantastic that so many people are willing to give so much and help out. Uh, my hat's off to them. And if there's any way that I can say thank you someday in a later date that really makes a difference in their life, that's what I would want to do. So
Nice.
that's first.
Yeah, I find that the few times when we've been at like cider days or some community event, people walk up to our booth and they know already
Yeah.
how amazing this program is. Oh, I've heard about you guys, and then we just kind of give them the elevator pitch, for 30 seconds, they're on board. We sold t-shirts, and people just like, yeah, I'll take a t-shirt. Yeah, I love what you do. I'm in.
I'm surprised how many people even know the name K9s for Camo because I've talked multiple times and but it's from like John Lopez and from other people long before me that have made this name something.
Yeah, yeah, John, John's still with us too. I mean,
Yes.
he's got his own interests in other business, and he's extremely successful doing that. But he is right in our, right there with us in our back seat, if you will, trying to help. I just texted him yesterday about something I needed, and just got right back with me. So he's not that big of a deal yet, right?
He won't be the one performing if that's what you're asking.
Oh, no, no, he won't. However, if anybody has ever watched John perform with a dog, I'm
Oh,
telling
yeah.
you, that is worth charging admission to watch him train a dog.
And his story is
Hmm.
amazing. The reason why he decided to do this was because he was afraid of dogs.
Hmm.
And now he's like this dog whisperer, Caesar Milan kind of guy,
Yeah.
and that's amazing, and that changed his life too. I mean,
Hmm.
that's something significant as well. All these dogs changing all of these folks' lives, that's just amazing. So, you'd said, Carrie Underwood. By the way, I'm a big fan. So in case she is listening, I love her and her music, just who she is, what I've seen of her. But I said that I probably shouldn't name names, but I almost feel compelled to do that because uh, there are names that I think are significant. So I'm going to ask um, my dog. Sorry, I'm going to ask that like Craig Morgan, who was a veteran or is a veteran, excuse me,
Hmm.
and very famous. Jelly Roll. I can't think of a better advocate for inmates than
Yes.
Jelly Roll.
Yep.
In fact, I just saw a TikTok where Jelly Roll and Craig Morgan were doing a song together. Uh, that just, I think
Perfect.
that's divine intervention, right?
We'll take them.
And then Toby Keith, I think
Oh,
would be fantastic. Uh,
yeah.
yep. And then Miranda Lambert.
Uh-huh.
Uh, she is a huge, huge dog advocate
Yep.
all over the world. It's not just the US. So I think names like
Yeah.
that are willing to invest in our program would take our program to a whole new level.
Okay. It's been put out there. It's in the universe.
Yep.
We're going to manifest it now.
There we go. Yep.
Okay, well, I am going to let this close out our first
Okay.
YouTube podcast. So thank you so much for joining
My
me.
pleasure.
I had a great conversation with you, even though I know your story. It's always nice to share the great stories of people who are backing this cause, and we hope that others will jump right on board.
All right. Hey, thank you for what you're doing.
Of course, of course. I will see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye.